Thank you. Okay, senior year of college, my friend Jess invites me out to a bar, and a bunch of her friends are going to be there, and she promised me that they were going to be my 3 favorite qualities: single, attractive, and female. And they missed my other 2 that I forgot about, which was interesting and interested in me. But you know, it was Saturday night, college, whatever, we're having a fun time. So my friend Dan calls me and says, "Well, Brian, what are you up to?" I'm like, "Oh, Dan, you know, it's like slim pickings with the ladies, but we're having a fun time. You should come out." He's like, "Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, by the way, Blanc is with me." And then he hangs up. Obviously, he didn't say Blanc. The person who's going to be discussed in this story will be referred to as Blanc, because at the time he was a man of very, very loose morals. But from what I've heard, he's now reformed, and he's living the straight and narrow, and I don't want to, you know, besmirch his good name. You know, I believe in second chances, so you will be hearing the name Blanc a lot tonight, and that's just a stand-in for something. So Dan and Blanc show up, and so me and Jess and Dan and Blanc were all friends from freshman year, so you know, we were sitting around catching up, and Jess is friends with us, so we're all just kind of hanging out. And so it gets to be around 12:30, and Blanc says, "Oh, we should go to I know this really great after-hours place near my apartment in South Philly. We go there." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds good." He's like, "Oh yeah, it's so great. All these strippers go there after they're done their shifts." And I'm like, "Wow, okay. I'd like to talk to like an off-duty stripper. I bet that's an interesting experience. I've obviously struck out tonight. You know, just see where this goes." And so we all were like, okay. So we get so Blanc takes us in his car and drives back to his place, which was probably not a great idea, but we arrived alive. And all right. So he's like, "Well, it doesn't open until 2, so why don't you guys come up and we'll just kind of hang out until it opens." We're like, "Okay." So we're hanging out, and this is like a total bohemian apartment. It's like on Broad Street. The walls, you know, like the windows look out to brick walls. Like everything has got like that weird like French art posters on the wall, like weird things that you're like, "What the hell is that?" He has like a djembe or something, and then he puts on Coltrane's at the Village Vanguard on LP. And so I was like, okay, we're in a pure boho sanctuary, and you know, he's got Bukowski books on the wall and all that. So we're sitting around listening to this, and he's like, "Oh, does anybody want to smoke pot?" I'm like, "Well, I'm in college, so I mean, if you're having some, if you're putting the kettle on, sure, I'll have a pot." And Jess says, "Well, Ryan is certainly not cooler than I am, so I will also partake." And Dan begged off because that's not really his thing. And so we all have some, and so we each have like 2 hits, and Jess and I sit on the couch, and Jess goes into a coma like that. She cannot wake up. And I'm like, "Oh God," and I can't move. I'm like, my head's back on the couch like this, like, "Blanc, I think there's something wrong with your weed." And he's like, "Yeah, it's cool." And like I can probably count on my fingers and toes the number of times I've actually partaken in pot, but I'm pretty sure, you know, and my friends, like my potsmate friends, are like, "Nah, it's probably just really good shit." And I'm like, "I don't think so." But he was fine, and so I'm like, can't move. And so then it gets weirder, so he's like, oh, I got this really great thing. And he puts on an original pressing of The Twist by Chubby Checker. Like the full LP of The Twist, not like the 45, the LP in its original pressing. So I can't move, we're listening to this, you know, The Twist. I'm like, oh my God. And then he's like, "Oh no, this is really great, this is really great." So he puts on Pulp Fiction, and he cues it up to the scene where John Travolta comes to pick up Uma Thurman. And so he puts out 3 lines of coke and does them with Uma Thurman as she does them in the film. And so I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like, so, you know, this goes on, and finally I'm like flopping my arms around, and I'm starting to move. Jess is not waking up, so Glenn says, "Okay, well, do you guys still want to go?" And you know, because she can just stay here, And Glenn had a reputation of being kind of rapey. I'm not saying that there were any allegations or anything, but he just had the vibe, and you know, so we're like, we gotta go. We really want to check this place out. So we go, and it's just this like yellow like row home, no windows. You go inside, you get carpet, and then it's just this ugly ass like wood panels, shag carpet. Then there's a bar, and it's like a split level. And so like up the stairs, you see there's a stage with 2 poles on it, and I'm like, it's a strip club. It is not an after-hours bar where strippers hang out. They go to continue working. I've never been to a strip club at this point, so I'm like freaking out because I'm like, what is going on? And then so they like the strippers will after they're done stripping, they just jump off stage and walk around the audience to get money from everyone in their G-strings. I can't deal with this, oh my God. So we stay for about like an hour or two, and I'm like, okay, Jess is probably awake by now. So we go back, Lana goes to the bathroom, and Jess, wake up. If you don't wake up right now, Lana's gonna rape you. She's like, oh, he's like, you can stay. She's like, no, it's not a problem, it's not a problem. So we get downstairs, we just hop in a bus, and she finally comes to in about like 5 or 7 minutes, and she's like, what happened? It's like, well, for the first time in the history of mankind, the right thing to do was to go to an after-hours strip club, and that's what we did.